This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Russia reports 11,000 new coronavirus cases, with total infections now surpassing 200,000. Paris marks its last day of lockdown as residents await the easing of restrictions starting Monday. And flash floods killed dozens and displaced thousands in Somalia. Hello and a warm welcome to Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Lindy Mtongana in Nairobi. Also coming up this half hour. 25 Tunisian fishermen arrested by Libyan Eastern forces loyal to Khalifa Haftar. And in sports, South Africa's rising BMX rider Meanda Maseti aspires to compete at the Olympics. In our latest coronavirus news, we start in Russia now, where the government has reported over 11,000 new COVID-19 cases in just the past 24 hours. This raises the total number of infections to over 200,000. The country has been seeing over 10,000 daily new cases for more than a week. Lucy Taylor has more from Moscow.
A difficult week for Russia, a significant spike in infections. Moscow's mayor says that's because of the more widespread testing that's being carried out. He says that many cases are being picked up that are asymptomatic, that might not be picked up in other countries because of different testing programs. Moscow's mayor says that a more reassuring sign is that the fact of hospital cases is stable. So the number of people with moderate or severe pneumonia requiring critical care in hospital hasn't risen, and he says that suggests this outbreak is under control. But lockdown now since the end of March, people were hoping that that could be eased this week after the end of the May holidays on Tuesday, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case at all. In Moscow, the restrictions have been extended until May 31st, and in fact there are more restrictions being brought in that people will now have to wear masks and gloves in shops and on public transport. So that's a stricter measure than previously. People are being told to stay at home. If you want to travel across Moscow, you have to get a digital pass on your phone, which you can show to police if you're stopped, and those are only issued for work or for other reasons on a fairly limited basis. So fairly strict restrictions in Moscow. President Putin has given responsibility to regional governors to make the measures in their own region, to make the decisions in their own region, because of course this is an absolutely huge country. It's many time zones wide, so the outbreak is going to be at different stages in different places at different times.
To France now, where the streets of Paris remained quiet on Sunday, the last day of a strict lockdown imposed to contain the spread of the coronavirus. The lockdown, which began on the 17th of March, has been in place for over 50 days. France will begin to ease restrictions from Monday, but it will impose a 100-kilometer restriction on people inside COVID-19 hotspots designated as the red zone. This includes the Greater Paris region, unless it is for urgent family or work-related reasons. There will also be a compulsory 2-week quarantine for travelers, whether French or foreign, arriving into the country from outside the European Union's Schengen area and the United Kingdom. And in China, one new infection has been reported in the country's northeast Liaoning province. Authorities have linked the case in Shenyang City to the cluster in neighboring Jilin province. China reported 14 new cases on Saturday, the highest number since March 11th. 11 of those cases are in Jilin province, Shulan City. Liu Jiexin reports.
Back to a lockdown again. After a surge in local coronavirus cases in northeast China's Shulan City in Jilin province. It all started from an infected laundrywoman on Friday that ended the history of the city with no new cases for more than 3 months. And 11 new cases made public on Sunday are members of her family or people who came into contact with her or her family members.
5月9日 本土再次发生聚集性疫情。
On May the 9th, a cluster of epidemic cases occurred again in the mainland. Here's what we should do. Always maintain a high degree of vigilance, use personal protection, do not get together in groups, and gather less often.
不扎堆，少聚集。
Jilin officials on Sunday raised the Shulan city risk level to the highest level, making it the only city in China today with that designation. Besides a reimposed community lockdown, the local railway company halted nearly a dozen train services in and out of the city from Sunday through the end of May. All public transportation, including buses, also suspended service starting Sunday, and no taxis are allowed to leave the city. 刘嘉欣 CGTN.
Meanwhile, the Chinese business community in South Africa has been assisting those struggling economically amid a coronavirus lockdown. One of the biggest Chinese malls in Johannesburg issued a special appeal for donations. CGTN's Lindy Mtongana has more on the speedy response from the mall's business tenants.
There's been general solidarity amongst communities here in South Africa as everyone is dealing with the issue of COVID-19. The Chinese community is the latest in extending their hands and helping those who are most in need. The campaign is called #WeLoveSouthAfrica, and it's all about helping others, especially now in the time of the coronavirus outbreak.
So we just want to show the Chinese community care about the local people, and we want to work together with the local society to fight against the virus, and to overcome those difficulties. This is a very, very horrible virus, and we will take a longer time to work on it. And I think we have to make us ready and to come out anytime, to help the local communities.
As we know, lockdown has brought with it, and the COVID-19 has brought with it the challenges of people that were trading informally, who were able through that trading to can manage their homes. But unfortunately, because of the lockdown, those informal traders cannot trade to can put anything on the table that are basics. So we are very much thankful to the China community to have brought these food parcels.
A number of economically disadvantaged students from Johannesburg-based Wits University were also beneficiaries of this gesture.
And we are indeed very grateful for the assistance. We think in this time where people are scared of the virus and they are addressing it in different ways, it is important that solidarity, that as people we come together and we address problems of food insecurity together.
I feel very happy today because this means a lot to us, myself and my family. A lot of families during this pandemic are suffering basically, and to be one of the luckiest ones to receive this parcel, it's something out of this world. So it actually means a lot to me and my family as well.
Receiving the food parcels really means a lot to us as students because we have embarked on a journey of online learning, which requires us to focus and to work hard on online learning.
The Chinese community here is determined to continue to assist these communities and not let this venture be a once-off event. Lindy Mtongana for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
A visiting team of Chinese medical experts have completed their mission in Côte d'Ivoire after hosting multiple training sessions over the past week to help the West African country counter the spread of COVID-19. The team of 12 specialists have been sharing their experiences with their local counterparts. They also made a number of recommendations. The Ivorian Health Ministry said that these recommendations will help the country to combat the coronavirus more effectively. He also thanked China for helping Côte d'Ivoire build the capacity of its medical personnel and health officials. The Chinese ambassador to Côte d'Ivoire praised the growing ties between the two nations as they seek to end the viral outbreak.
Since 4th May, the two delegations' fieldwork has enabled the Chinese delegation to visit the Ivorian sites for screening, quarantining, biological analysis and medical care. We are at the heart of this experience sharing session, whose reports have allowed us to optimize observations. Thus, these aspects such as the prevention of the infection, the treatment of the suspect cases, The epidemiological research, disinfection, and the nursing care have enabled us to have a deeper understanding. We are convinced that the implementation of these recommendations will enable our two countries to deal with the pandemic.
The virus doesn't respect borders. We are a community with a common destiny. That's why we believe we must join forces to fight COVID-19. I believe that through combined efforts, we can defeat the virus as soon as possible.
And turning to other news now, flash floods have claimed more than a dozen lives in Somalia and displaced thousands of people. In central Somalia, the rising water level is forcing many to make a hard choice to wait and see or to flee their homes. CGTN's Abdulaziz Bilo is in Mogadishu and filed this report.
Nasteha Abdi has fled with her husband and children to higher grounds as water levels rise in the Shabelle River. The mother of 6 is among thousands who've taken refuge on the outskirts of Beledweyne as aid agencies warn of heavy flooding in the coming weeks.
I've moved here due to rising water levels along the Shabelle River. I was afraid that floods in the coming days will submerge homes in my neighborhood. I am now in El Jale camp with my family. It's Ramadan and the temperature is high. We have food, but we don't have water. We need water.
The situation is the same in surrounding neighborhoods. People flee with their personal belongings. Those lucky have hired trucks and vehicles to ferry them. The unlucky ones rely on donkey carts to transport their belongings. It's the rainy season in Somalia and is expected to last until the end of June. Local authorities have begun creating flood barriers along the river, buying locals time to move to higher grounds for safety. Last year, more than a dozen people lost their lives as a result of severe floods, with schools and markets forced to shut down.
Our engineers are at Kokani area where water levels have gone up. To prevent flooding, we are creating flood barriers approximately 3.5 kilometers from the city, using more than 5,500 sandbags to prevent water from flooding into the city and surrounding neighborhoods.
Regional authorities have accused the government of failing to come up with flood mitigation measures. Flooding in parts of the country has destroyed farmlands and infrastructure, devastating livelihoods in some of the worst hit areas.
It has become a common occurrence every year that for 3 months we are forced to flee our homes due to floods. And for another 3 months, our people die as a result of lack of clean drinking water. There is no single project the government has implemented in this region.
The latest flooding is expected to severely impact food production in the country, with thousands of farms submerged in flood waters. The Somali government and its international partners say that the country is facing a triple threat: rising coronavirus infections, flash floods and locust invasion in several parts of the country. Experts now have urged authorities to ensure that equal attention is given to all aspects of this humanitarian crisis. Abdulaziz Bilo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Well, let's take a short break now. Here's what's still ahead on the program. Coming up, 25 Tunisian fishermen arrested by Libyan Eastern forces loyal to Khalifa Haftar. And with humans staying at home, wild animals in Kenya's parks roam free. The forces of Libyan commander Khalifa Haftar have arrested 25 Tunisian fishermen and seized their fishing.
The fishermen were arrested by Libyan armed men in Tunisian waters. Unfortunately, this incident is recurring. We condemn this illegal practice which threatens regional stability. We urge our government to deploy marine units to protect Tunisian vessels.
ضروري تواجد قوات من بحرية.
Eyewitnesses say this scene was terrifying because the Libyans were heavily armed. Accordingly, they also threatened to open fire on the Tunisian vessels and fishermen.
I saw the Libyan pirates when they entered 20 miles into Tunisian waters and used force and arms to hijack the fishing vessels. The armed Libyan militias don't understand dialogue. They are the ones stealing our resources.
We know the limit of Tunisia's territorial waters. We were 6 Tunisian vessels fishing legally. We thought the Libyans needed help, but they deployed armed men from small and fast boats.
The owners of other fishing vessels have gathered at the port of Sfax to make their voices heard. They assert that Tunisian fishermen and civilians in general should never be involved in any political conflict in Libya.
The Libyans have made an act of piracy. We can't even fish in our waters without risking our lives. Tunisia does not interfere in the Libyan conflict. We are neutral and will remain as such, even if we are being intimidated by the Libyans.
Over the past 10 years, dozens of Tunisian fishing vessels were seized by Libyan armed men. Fishermen in the city of Sfax will stage a sit-in at the port until their friends and relatives are released. The Executive Bureau of the Regional Union of Agriculture and Fisheries in Sfax and civil society organizations have urged the governors of the border regions with Libya and the Foreign Ministry to mediate with the Libyan side in order to ensure a safe return of the fishermen to their families before the end of Ramadan. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Let's go to the Democratic Republic of Congo now. The coronavirus outbreak has been complicating efforts to contain a measles epidemic that has claimed more than 6,000 lives since last year. A vaccination campaign in the east of the country was poorly attended due to fears of contracting COVID-19. CGTN's Chris Ochamringa has more.
A measles immunization campaign has been held in the east and northeastern regions of the DRC. The government continued immunizing children amid the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure they do not miss out on the life-saving vaccines. The campaign was rolled out by UNICEF and other international agencies.
We continue with the vaccination campaign, taking into consideration COVID prevention measures to avoid the cross-contamination COVID measles, COVID other diseases. This is the reason why UNICEF, apart of providing 750,000 vaccines and also kits to take care of the children.
Parents and children were only allowed inside health centers in small groups. But despite the precautions, fear of contracting the coronavirus kept many away.
The measles vaccination, we attend always 100%. For the vaccination, but in these days we noticed that the mothers didn't come with their children. They refused to come with their children in the vaccination. Why? We try to know why they refuse to come. Some mothers think that all the hospitals are taking care of COVID patients now that they have a fear.
Turnout was also affected by rumors that the vaccine could have a negative impact on children and by ongoing military conflict in certain areas. According to health officials, only 40% of the number of children they targeted were vaccinated this time round. Last year, the DRC recorded more than 300,000 measles cases. There's been a drop in the number of cases this year, but the outbreak is far from over. Measles cases have been recorded in all the 26 provinces due to the low vaccination coverage and the country's weak healthcare system. The immunization exercise was held a month after the government announced that it would test COVID-19 vaccines in the country once they're developed. That announcement sparked rumors about the harmful effects of all types of vaccines. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Here in Kenya, people living near the Masai Mara National Park have reported unusual animal activity in recent weeks. As human traffic reduces due to COVID-19, more animals are venturing out of the park. But as some conservationists have warned, this could pose some challenges to the country's conservation efforts. CGTN's Wokista Nyabwa reports.
It's mid-morning and the animals have come out to play. As more people stay home at this conservancy in the Masai Mara, the animals are coming out in their numbers. The constant roar of vehicles driving across the Mara, the drone of planes passing overhead, and the constant human chatter has faded away. In its place is the symphony of birdsong, and the animals are reveling in this serene environment. But scientists argue that this isn't necessarily good news. They say the pandemic has made conservation work harder. Several projects are now on hold. In Kenya, the halt in tourism is creating new problems. The country attracts about 1.5 million tourists every year. Of these, over 70% visit its national parks to see the wildlife. The falling revenues mean many workers, including rangers in these parks, have been laid off. That could lead to increased poaching. Kenya's Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife says his ministry and the Association of Wildlife Conservancy Rangers in Kenya wants to ensure 3,500 rangers receive their salaries for 6 months. But Treasury is yet to approve the plan. As countries battle COVID-19, Midori Paxton, the head of Ecosystems and Biodiversity at UNDP, says that the tourism sector must be viewed like a large corporation that employs millions and benefits many. She wants authorities to assist communities that protect wildlife by giving them COVID-19 recovery packages. In the Mara, the future is uncertain. And as the animals retire as darkness falls, yet another unusual day ends. Wokista Nyabwa, CGTN.
Coming up in your sports news. South Africa's rising BMX rider, Meanda Maseti, aspires to compete at the Olympics.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
We start your sports news in South Africa, where Meanda Maseti is a BMX rider from Johannesburg who's breaking down barriers and setting new standards in the sport. She's dominated her age group at provincial and national level and now wants to improve her international ranking. Maseti's ultimate dream is to one day represent South Africa at the Olympic Games. CGTN's Julie Shire has her story.
Meanda Maseti, the 14-year-old South African who dreams of making it big in the world of BMX.
I started riding because of my brother. I saw him racing and I thought it would be fun, so I started riding. What I love about riding right now is the fact that I can challenge myself against other people.
3 national titles and 3 world championship appearances made Maseti hungry for more success.
My short-term ambitions is currently to get a world number, to become a world champion. If I become a world champion, I'll feel like I've worked hard enough and all of my hard work has paid off.
BMX is a fringe sport in South Africa, but it doesn't deter Meanda.
BMX in South Africa is actually really quite small. Not a lot of people ride. Other countries have more funding for their riders. They have more training facilities. They have better equipment to ride. I started racing boys because I thought I'd get a lot faster because racing girls wasn't getting me anywhere in a way. Racing boys allowed me to improve as much as they improve, and then I tried to work on that to become faster.
A global pandemic has put Maseti's and so many others' dreams on hold.
The coronavirus has really put a pause in all of my hard work because it has cancelled so many events for me, like my national championships and my world championships. I've prepared so hard and for so long for this, and this year I really felt prepared and ready to win the championship.
Mtongana believes her hard work is not lost, and after missing out on a final spot by one position at the 2019 World Championships, she's determined to go one better and get her world number and keep her Olympic dream alive. Julie Shara, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.